Dear viewers, in this video, we will discuss habits, one of the greatest secrets many people overlook without realizing how powerful and deeply influential they are on our lives, whether positively or negatively. Today, I will present an explanation of the concept of habits like never before, and I will explain in detail how these habits shape our lives in ways we may not even notice. This is the first part of the explanation of the book Atomic Habits by author James Clear. Get your favorite drink ready and let's start this enjoyable journey together. Welcome to the Growth Galore channel. The concept of the channel revolves around providing explanations for audiobooks in English. As you can see, the text is written in both English and German, and you can enable subtitles to access the text in other languages. If you'd like to listen to the video in additional languages, feel free to request that through the channel. I'd like to begin with an important statement. The life you are living today, with all its details, is the result of the habits you've been practicing over the past few years, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, or even more or less. What you will experience in the future depends on the habits you are programming and practicing right now. James Clear focuses on the power of habits and their profound impact on our daily lives. Clear believes that habits form an integrated system that unconsciously controls our lives. These habits are not just random actions we perform, but are the foundational pillars that shape our lives. But how do these habits form? Clear explains that every habit in our lives is made up of 3 main stages. 1. Cue. This is the stage that represents the trigger or signal that sparks the beginning of the habit. This cue could be something we see, hear, or feel, and it prompts us to initiate the habit. 2. Routine. After the cue comes the routine or the behavior we perform in response to the cue. This behavior, when repeated consistently, turns into a habit. The routine is the most visible part of the habit, whether it is beneficial or harmful, depending on the type of habit. 3. Reward. Finally, there is the reward, which is the result or feeling we obtain after completing the habit. The reward could be a sense of happiness, comfort, or physical or mental satisfaction. Clear points out that the reward may not always be immediately noticeable, but it is the primary driver behind the repetition of the habit. But how can you change your habits? If you want to change a specific habit, you must first understand these 3 stages: the cue, the routine, and the reward. Once you grasp this mechanism, you'll be able to eliminate any bad habit or develop a new one. Therefore, your habits are what shape your future, and they can either lead you to achieve your goals or derail them. James Clear states that improving by just 1% each day can lead to remarkable progress over time. Conversely, deteriorating by 1% daily can result in disastrous outcomes. The secret lies in consistently focusing on improving small habits. Small habits make a big difference. Major changes in our lives come from continuous small adjustments. James Clear calls these small changes atomic habits, simple yet repetitive steps that contribute to significant long-term change. This means you don't need to make drastic changes in your life. Instead, small, continuous improvements are enough to achieve significant results. One of the examples Clear mentioned is the remarkable story of how small changes can lead to big results. This is the story of the British cycling team. From 1908 to 2003, a period of nearly 95 years, the British cycling team was among the worst in the world. During that time, the team won only 1 gold medal in the Olympics and had never won the prestigious Tour de France, one of the most famous cycling races in the world. The team was so bad that one major bike manufacturer refused to sell its bikes to them for fear that the team's poor performance would damage the brand's reputation. In 2003, Dave Brailsford was appointed as the team's director, and he introduced a simple but highly effective idea. Brailsford said he would focus on the principle of improving every small aspect by just 1%, then aggregating these small improvements to create a significant difference. Brailsford and his team began optimizing every small detail. They redesigned the bike seats to make them more comfortable, wiped down the tires with alcohol to increase their grip on the road, and introduced shorts with built-in heating to keep the cyclist's muscles at an optimal temperature. The changes didn't stop at the bikes. They experimented with different creams to aid muscle recovery, improved the cyclist's sleeping environment by adjusting their beds and pillows to ensure better rest, and even encouraged the cyclists to wash their hands regularly to reduce the chances of getting the flu. They even changed the color of the inside of the trucks that transported the bikes from beige to white, so they could easily spot any dust that might affect the bike's performance. These small improvements led to astonishing results. Just 5 years after Brailsford took over the team, at the 2008 Beijing Olympics, the British cycling team won 60% of the gold medals. 4 years later, at the 2012 London Olympics, they broke 9 Olympic records and 7 world records. The team also won 5 Tour de France titles in just 6 years. Between 2007 and 2017, the British cycling team achieved the greatest run in cycling history, thanks to Brailsford's continuous focus on small improvements. James Clear poses an important question. How did a team of average performers turn into one of the most successful in the history of cycling? The answer lies in atomic habits. The idea is to break down your habits into smaller components and focus on improving each part. These small improvements, when accumulated, lead to massive results. The key is patience and the understanding that each small habit contributes to building a bigger, more impactful life. You don't need to make radical changes overnight. Start with simple steps. As we mentioned earlier, habits consist of 3 stages: the cue, the routine, and the reward. Now let's dive deeper into the cue and break it down into atomic cues, applying the concept of atomic habits. Here's an example. A smoker is exposed to multiple cues that trigger the habit of smoking. Among these cues is the visual cue, such as seeing a pack of cigarettes, which can act as a prompt to start smoking. There's also another visual cue, seeing someone else smoke, which is a stronger trigger than just seeing the pack. But the most powerful cue is the olfactory cue, or smelling smoke. Once the smoker smells the smoke, they are much more likely to light a cigarette. James Clear explains that some cues are tied to the environment you're in. For example, a smoker might not feel the urge to smoke when they are in their living room or with their family. Even if their family isn't present, they know it's not the right environment for smoking, so they won't see it as a cue. On the other hand, when they're with friends who smoke or in a designated smoking area, this environment becomes a strong cue to start smoking. The same principle applies to other behaviors. If you spend time with smokers, you're likely to smoke. If you're with people who read, you'll be inclined to read. If you're around coworkers, you'll talk about work. This happens because your brain has learned to associate the people you see with certain behaviors. So even when you meet them outside of work, you tend to talk about work. James Clear emphasizes that in order to build a new habit, you need to make its cues obvious, whereas to break a bad habit, you must make its cues invisible. For example, if you decide to quit smoking, you should focus on eliminating all the triggers that prompt the habit. This could involve getting rid of all your cigarette packs and lighters, avoiding places where you typically smoke, and distancing yourself from people who encourage smoking. You must remove all cues, even ones as subtle as a specific drink or a cup of coffee that makes you crave a cigarette. Temporarily, avoiding coffee can help reprogram your subconscious mind, and you can return to it later once the habit is broken. For habits you want to adopt, you need to create clear cues for them. Let me give you a personal example. I was once addicted to a certain video game, spending countless hours each day playing it. After coming home from work, all the short videos I watched on YouTube and Facebook were related to this game, and when I entered my room, I saw my iPad and gaming headphones on the table, as well as the spot where I usually sat to play. These visual cues sent signals to my subconscious mind saying, "Do this habit, play the game." The first step in breaking this habit was acknowledging that I was addicted and that I was wasting a lot of time. Then, I identified the cues that triggered this habit and made them harder to access. I simply deleted the game from my iPad and eventually sold the device, replacing it with one that helped me with video editing. I also changed the spot where I used to play the game and unfollowed all the influencers who talked about gaming, instead following valuable content that provides benefits to people. I began learning video editing on YouTube, and if I hadn't made these changes, you wouldn't be watching this great video now. I hope you subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up because it motivates me to keep going. Before we conclude the video, dear viewer, I'd like to share a very important insight with you. If you want to break a bad habit, you'll need to go through 4 stages. 1. The first stage. This is when you engage in a bad habit without realizing it's a bad habit. At this point, your brain is acting unconsciously. For example, when I was addicted to the game, I didn't initially realize that this behavior was negative. 2. The second stage. You start practicing the bad habit while being aware that it's harmful. Here, you transition from unconscious behavior to conscious awareness. In this stage, I knew I was wasting a lot of time on the game, yet I continued to play it. 3. The third stage. This is when you begin practicing the right behavior while being aware of your actions. At this point, you're moving from bad behavior to good behavior, but you're still in a state of conscious effort. When I started working on videos and learning video editing, my brain still tried to pull me back to my comfort zone, the games. However, I persevered because I knew what I was doing was better. 4. The fourth stage. You reach a point where you practice the right behavior automatically, without conscious effort. At this stage, the good behavior has become a habit. For instance, when I come home now, I start working on videos and learning without feeling bored because I've gotten used to this positive behavior. James Clear also shares that when he and his wife decided to go to the gym every day, the cue was simply putting on their gym clothes as soon as they returned from work. This programmed their minds to follow that cue. So, if you want to go to the gym, make sure your cues are clear and easy to act on. Always remember, the more cues you have, and the stronger they are, the more likely and quickly you'll respond to them. Use visual, auditory, or any type of cue that will strengthen your response. I want you to try this with an app that's consuming a lot of your time and causing frustration. The first step is to turn off notifications for that app, then remove it from the main apps you always see. Afterward, tell me in the comments how much time you spent on that app before and after these steps. And that's all about cues and how they trigger habits. Don't forget to share this video with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for the next video where we'll continue discussing this fantastic book. Thank you for listening attentively, and thank you for your invaluable time.